CGTN, China Global Television Network.
Hello and welcome to The World Today, live from CGTN in London. I'm Stephen Cole. Our top stories. The hug that cost his job. The UK Health Secretary quits after breaking social distancing rules. Tributes to the victims and to the many still missing after Thursday's Miami apartment block collapse. Blazing a trail on Mars. China's Zhurong rover sends back new video and new sounds from the Red Planet. And meet the Dragon Man, why scientists think this 140,000-year-old skull could be a new close relative of us. But first, it's been quite a week in UK politics. The newly appointed Health Secretary, Sajid Javid, has started his new job after Matt Hancock resigned on Saturday for breaking COVID guidelines by kissing a colleague. A senior minister says a leaked video of the embrace from a government department is being investigated. Andrew Wilson is following developments from Oxford. Andrew, does this resignation make matters worse or better for the government?
That's an interesting question, Stephen, because whilst Matt Hancock's resignation can be explained in many ways, it also gives us an insight into the thinking process of Downing Street itself. The Prime Minister was extremely keen to keep Matt Hancock on. He doesn't like disturbances, he doesn't like ugly scenes, and clearly he doesn't like sacking people. So Boris Johnson came under a lot of pressure from his own party to do something about the Hancock situation, and in the end, Hancock fell on his own sword, perhaps even to spare the Prime Minister the experience of sacking him, which gives us an insight into how things are shifting in Downing Street and whether or not Boris Johnson is in control, and that's valuable information for his enemies. It also sheds some light on the fallout from the departure of his special advisor, Dominic Cummings. This can be considered collateral damage from that departure in November last year, and so people will be wondering how the power shifting is taking place there as well. So Boris Johnson and Sajid Javid together will need to show that they are capable of working together and moving forward in the face of some of their enemies. So for now, the story is one in and one out.
Back in frontline politics, Sajid Javid has already been Home Secretary and Chancellor till he resigned last year. So for the Prime Minister, his appointment avoids a clumsy reshuffle. He's an old friend of Mrs. Johnson as well, so he should fit right in.
Good morning, Elsa. Daunting job ahead. What are your priorities?
Good morning. I just want to start by saying I think Matt Hancock worked incredibly hard. He achieved a lot, and I'm sure he will have more to offer in public life.
His predecessor, Matt Hancock, resigned on Saturday after a passionate embrace with a colleague made it to the papers. Not even the Prime Minister's protection could save him. It's a classic tale of British politics, and it started with this man, Dominic Cummings, one-time Downing Street advisor who was fired in November. In a later parliamentary inquiry, he exploded an extraordinary bombshell on Hancock's reputation.
I think that the Secretary of State for Health should have been fired for at least 15, 20 things, including lying to everybody in multiple occasions, in meeting after meeting, in the Cabinet room and publicly.
Hancock had been a rising star in the party, serving 2 prime ministers and even running for the leadership himself. But with the pandemic, the media debate, helped by Cummings' testimony, soon switched to talk of insider PPE contracts, inadequate protection for the elderly, and questions of honesty. By the time these pictures appeared, the thin ice under his career had to give way.
I understand the enormous sacrifices that everybody in this country has made, that you have made, and those of us who make these rules have got to stick by them, and that's why I've got to resign.
Although the Prime Minister hoped to save Hancock, Javid was the obvious next choice.
We are still in a pandemic, and I want to see that come to an end as soon as possible, and that will be my most immediate priority, to see that we can return to normal as soon and as quickly as possible.
Sajid Javid inherits a successful vaccination programme mixed with public concerns over summer travel. But top of the list, the search for who leaked these embarrassing images from one of the most powerful departments in British government.
Well, Sajid Javid, Andrew, says he's keen to get to work. What do you think we can expect from him?
Well, you heard him there. He wants to get things back to normal as quickly as possible. He's known as the Sarge. He's a tough talker. He came from humble beginnings, and he's already held 6 different posts in high office, so he should be relatively experienced. But his entree at the Department of Health is pretty daunting, to say the least. Hospital admissions are rising. They're not choking the NHS, but they certainly are becoming disruptive again. The NHS England is looking for a new chief executive. They've got this new UK Health Security Agency to set up. There are reforms in place at the moment, and social care, of course, still lingering as something they've got to deal with, a huge promise of Boris Johnson's. But before all that gets dealt with, they've got this 19th of July so-called deadline where the public is hopefully expecting that things will be relaxed even more than they are now, and they'll be able to get on with their summer. And so he turns his attentions to the Delta variant and how it's getting on in this country. 95% of all tests now are coming in with Delta variant, of all positive tests are coming in with Delta variant. 514 people in hospital at the moment with COVID. 304 of those are unvaccinated. So the data suggests that the vaccinations thus far are doing their job and keeping people out of hospital. But looking at Europe, Europe's now looking at a huge increase in the Delta variant as well. Scientists there are predicting 70% of cases will be Delta variant by the beginning of August, rising to 90 by the end of August. So there'll be various European health ministers who want to renew contact with Sajid Javid and see what they can do to sort that out amongst themselves. But one big difference between Hancock and Sajid Javid is that he has got a reputation for being far more bullish about lifting restrictions. Hancock was persistently cautious about lifting lockdown and advised the Prime Minister that way throughout his time in office. Sajid Javid might be keener to let things open up a bit quicker.
Andrew Wilson, many thanks, Andrew. People across France are voting in a second round of regional elections. Last Sunday's first round saw a fall in support for both President Macron's centrist party and Marine Le Pen's far-right National Party. Turnout also hit a record low, with only 1 in 3 voters showing up at the polls. Top-secret UK military documents have been found in the street, including plans for a British ship to sail near Ukraine, a move that sparked a diplomatic row with Russia on Wednesday. The classified papers were discovered by a member of the public at a bus stop just outside London and then handed to the BBC. Other details include options for future UK troop deployment in Afghanistan after NATO operations end there. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken has arrived in Rome for a series of meetings, including with Italian Foreign Minister Luigi Di Maio. The two will co-chair an event on Monday to talk about the Syrian civil war and defeating so-called ISIS. Blinken is also meeting Israel's Foreign Minister Yair Lapid, who has flown to Rome for the first talks with the US since his coalition government took office. Emergency workers continue to search through the rubble of an apartment block that came down on Thursday in the US city of Miami. 9 people have been confirmed dead, more than 150 remain unaccounted for. Rescue teams have been using specialist machines, drones and specially trained dogs to search through the rubble. Makeshift memorials have been set up with photographs of the missing, and a number of church services have also been held. Let's cross live to Miami and join Giles Gibson. Giles, what do we know about how the search and rescue operation is currently progressing?
Well, we've actually just had an update in the last few minutes from the local mayors in this area, as well as the governor of Florida, Ron DeSantis. Take a listen to the mayor of Miami-Dade County giving the latest figures.
As of today, 1 victim passed away in the hospital, and we've recovered 8 more victims on site. So I am confirming today that the death toll is at 9. We've identified 4 of the victims and notified the next of kin.
Now, we've also had an update from the mayor about this fire that broke out in the debris. It's been causing a lot of problems for the search and rescue teams, with smoke sort of getting in their visibility. The mayor of Miami-Dade County now says that they have managed to suppress that fire, and they have managed to also cut a trench into the debris 125 feet long to help them to try and recover what they can.
Giles, everybody's looking for the cause of this collapse, and we've heard about possible problems with the design of the building. Are we any clearer yet about what exactly may have caused this?
Not clear yet, but we have had some details of a report that was filed by an engineer about the building back in 2018. In that report, he described major structural damage to the concrete slab underneath the pool deck at the apartment complex. He also described cracked beams and walls in the garage that was built underneath the building. There's also growing concern about this sister building. It was built in the same year, it's just around the corner, and of course residents of that building are growing concerned about the potential condition of their building as well. We just heard in the briefing a few moments ago that they are saying that there is no mandatory evacuation of that sister building, but that if residents want to evacuate, then there is federal assistance to help find some shelter for them for the next couple of weeks, while officials make sure that that building is completely safe.
Giles, I've seen one figure of over 100 people still unaccounted for, so hopes for finding survivors now must be fading.
Yeah, there's still more than 150 people unaccounted for or missing, and just in the briefing that we had a few moments ago, a reporter asked the chief of the Miami-Dade Fire Department when this operation would switch from being a search and rescue operation to a search and recovery operation. He essentially said that they are not considering making that switch yet, and the word that he used time and time again was hope. But surely for the families who've been waiting for several days now for some sort of scrap of information about their missing family members, that hope must be trickling away as each day passes.
Giles, many thanks for joining us. China has released new videos taken from the surface of Mars. The footage includes shots of the Zhurong rover touching down and later moving around on the red planet, along with sound recorded in the Martian atmosphere. Victor Ning has more.
360 million kilometers away from the Earth, a new milestone in China's space exploration. The Tianwen-1 lander touched down on Mars on May 15th. You are watching the descending process of the lander using a parachute filmed by itself. And there's more. A week after the touchdown, the Zhurong rover separated from the Tianwen-1 and reached the Martian surface. This is the first time that mankind has captured footage of a rover moving on Mars with the help of a remote camera controlled by Wi-Fi.
We made a careful design about the rover's path after it lays down the remote camera. It is moving in a curve instead of a straight line to avoid collision with the Tianwen-1 lander. It also provides a perfect angle for the selfie.
The videos have also captured sounds from the Martian environment, which is scientifically valuable.
One of the things that these images have done is to lay a good foundation for us to better understand Mars. It is also a very good foundation for our future missions to Mars. What is particularly significant is that we also have the sound that our rover made when it left the landing pad. And from that, we can measure some parameters about the Martian environment, the density of the atmosphere, etc., so we can do a more in-depth analysis.
The Zhurong has worked for 42 Mars days and traveled more than 200 meters. One Mars day is about 40 minutes longer than a day on Earth. Victor Ning, CGTN.
Pride celebrations have been continuing across Europe this weekend, with many people attending for the first time since the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic. This year's event comes as the EU threatens legal action against one of its own members, Hungary, which passed a controversial new law restricting the promotion of LGBTQ material. For more, go to europe.cgtn.com. And remember, CGTN is available to watch for 3 on all the major digital platforms, on Smart TV or online on Roku, Apple TV, Amazon Fire and Android TV. You can also find us on YouTube and Dailymotion, as well, of course, as CGTN.com and the CGTN app. Well, still to come here on The World Today, a night at the museum. Hungarians get their culture kick after dark as crowds pack into venues.
The EU's digital COVID certificate, which offers the promise of unlocking hassle-free travel around Europe this summer.
In less than 2 weeks' time, the Czech border will also open to all EU and Serbian citizens. 4.4 million Hungarians received their first dose of COVID vaccine.
18 and over can receive a COVID-19 vaccination, but it does come with conditions.
Third wave will probably take longer to emerge. This vaccination centre is part of a massive effort to try and drive down the numbers of the new variant that was first identified in India.
Welcome back. A reminder of our top stories. The hug that cost him his job. The UK Health Secretary quits after breaking social distancing rules. Tributes are being paid to the victims and many still missing after Thursday's Miami apartment block collapse. A new video and new sounds have been released from China's Zhurong rover on the surface of Mars. Hungary's annual Night of Museums has gone ahead this year, with crowds packing into venues until the early hours. It's the largest cultural event since the pandemic began, with 250 venues opening their doors, all at full capacity once again. Penelope Liesch reports from Budapest.
As famous landmarks lit up, the real night at the museum began. Exhibitions coming to life across the country. Thousands of people enjoying treasure troves of art and antiquities into the early hours of the morning.
Every year we usually come to here and visit the scene, and now it's good to come back and come out.
As well as entertainment, it was an evening of education. At the University of Veterinary Medicine, dogs didn't eat homework, they led the lectures. Rescued animals becoming real-life collections for a hands-on learning experience. The first long night of museums was held in Berlin more than 2 decades ago and has taken on different forms in 120 cities across the globe. The open nights are held as a way to attract new patrons and bring people together. In its 19th year, Night of the Museums is the largest cultural event Hungary has hosted since the pandemic began, a turning point after months of closures.
We all are very excited, actually. I expected a little bit less people because I thought people would be much more worried. But I'm really glad to see that there are many, many people. So fantastic. Life has come back. We are all very happy.
Museums are open to full capacity, but visits still look a little different, with masks and vaccination certificates all part of the experience.
I have been in online teaching for a while, and I stayed at home for most of the time, so it was really good to be back and walking through the city and going to museums, because I really enjoy going to museums.
We also enjoy it more now that we have been closed for a long time, so we will probably make up for what we missed.
Cultural institutions reopened their doors just over a month ago. The industry hopeful exhibitions can continue to be enjoyed in person.
Everybody who works in the exhibition industry, even from the worker part, even from the audience part, knows that nothing nothing can be compared to a real life exhibition experience.
Hungary is expected to hit 5.5 million first-dose COVID vaccinations this week and further lift restrictions to remove masks altogether, as well as allow people into some venues without proof of vaccination. Vaccine certificates will still be required for mass events like this. Penelope Leosh, CGTN, Budapest.
London's iconic red double-decker buses are set to go green, and Chinese companies will help to build them. The UK has some of the world's most ambitious emission targets, and London is looking to switch all its buses away from fossil fuels. Nicole Johnson reports.
This is the brave new world of public transport in the UK, manufacturing electric buses at a factory in Scotland. The UK is on track to have Europe's largest electric bus fleet within 3 years. It has around 1,000 of them, and over the next few years it will add hundreds more. But when the pandemic hit, streets emptied out, and so did public transport.
So you're right, the pandemic has been very bad for our customers, and our customers are the bus operators. Through the course of the pandemic, at its very worst, we saw ridership on buses within the UK fall by 90%. And that was disastrous for the companies that were operating our products. But what we're seeing is a gradual improvement in ridership. People are returning to public transport, but the reality is it's probably likely they're not going to return to the full extent that they did pre-pandemic.
The good news for electric bus manufacturers is that this year the British government committed over $4 billion to support getting more of them on the road.
We're seeing a very positive rebound post-pandemic, particularly in London, where Transport for London have committed to converting all 9,000 buses to zero-emission operation by 2037.
To help reach that target, Shenzhen-based Chinese company BYD has partnered with the British bus manufacturer ADL to make a classic London double-decker bus powered by battery.
The main benefit of electric buses is, of course, the environment. They're cleaner for the air, quieter, and you can even charge your mobile phone on them. In the UK, converting to electric has so far saved 30,000 tonnes of carbon dioxide, and that's the equivalent of taking 11,000 cars off the road.
While there are thousands of electric buses in China, Europe is still catching up. But with the post-pandemic drive for greener energy, chances are you'll be seeing more of these on the roads soon. Nicole Johnston, CGTN, London.
At least 298 migrants, including 26 children, have been rescued off the coast of the Canary Islands. They were travelling in 7 boats near to the islands, which belong to Spain and sit just off the coast of northwest Africa. They're now being assisted by Red Cross workers. More than 5,500 migrants have crossed from Africa to the Canaries this year, more than double the same period a year ago. Tens of thousands of migrant workers are leaving the Bangladeshi capital Dhaka ahead of a strict lockdown. From Monday, people are being asked to stay home as coronavirus infections soar. Public intercity transport is already suspended, so people have squeezed into rickshaws and motorbikes to go to their villages. Thousands more have crowded onto ferry services. A fossilized skull discovered in China almost 90 years ago could rewrite the history of human evolution. Nicknamed Dragon Man, scientists think it may represent a new human species and could be our most recent ancestor. Jiang Dan reports.
A large fossilized skull was found in northeastern China, preserved almost perfectly for more than 140,000 years. It belonged to a large-brained male in his 50s with deep-set eyes and thick brow ridges, combined with primitive features such as a broad nose and low cheekbones. The skull was discovered in 1933, but only came to the attention of scientists more recently. The man who found it hid the skull at the bottom of a well for safekeeping in the city of Harbin, when part of China was under Japanese occupation. It was later dug up and handed over to paleontologist Professor Ji Qiang at Hebei GEO University in 2018. Since then, Professor Ji and his colleagues have been busy researching it, and their analysis of the skull has just been published in the journal The Innovation. Professor Ji says Dragon Man is a closer ancestor of modern man.
The findings show Dragon Man is more closely linked to Homo sapiens than Neanderthals are, which means they shared common ancestor in Asia. In the future, we'll further develop this research to find the common ancestor of Dragon Man and Homo sapiens in China or East Asia.
Researchers say the discovery could fundamentally alter our understanding of how human evolved. Not all scientists agree that Dragon Man is a separate species, but they believe this finding is an important piece of evidence for ongoing research on the human family tree. Zhang Dan, CGTN.
This week on CGTN, Europe's science show, Razor beating brain cancer with viruses, and the team in the Netherlands who are making living kidney tissue using a process called bioprinting. The hope is that one day they'll be able to 3D print fully functioning, implantable kidneys. And that, of course, would do away with the need for dialysis. And that's Razor right after the world today at 16:30 GMT here on CGTN. Our main story again. A hug that cost the UK Health Minister his job. Matt Hancock has resigned after breaking social distancing rules. He's been replaced by the former Home Secretary, Sajid Javid. And that's it from me, Stephen Cole, and the world today. Thanks for watching. We're available on smart TV apps such as Roku, Apple TV, Amazon Fire and Android TV. You can also find us on YouTube and Dailymotion, as well, of course, at cgtn.com and on the CGTN app. From all the team here in London, goodbye.